industry quietly tried to make sure they'd never hold it again. The votes were in. The numbers didn't lie. But behind the scenes, something else was happening. Something the mainstream music machine never planned for. A group that was supposed to fade out quietly during a 2-year military hiatus didn't just survive. They came back and took the biggest prize in the room. And not everyone was happy about it. This is the story of the award the industry never wanted BTS to win. And exactly why that makes it the most important win of their career. To understand why this moment hit differently, you need to understand what the last 2 years actually looked like for BTS. Between 2023 and 2025, every single member served mandatory military duty in South Korea. 7 men, 7 enlistments. A fandom told to wait, and an industry that had been quietly trying to figure out what a world without BTS at the top actually looked like. Because here's what nobody says out loud. When BTS went quiet, labels scrambled. Western acts were pushed to fill the vacuum. New K-pop groups were fast-tracked. The narrative machine started churning out a very specific story, that BTS was yesterday's news, that the moment had passed, that ARMY had moved on. Except ARMY hadn't moved on, and the industry was about to find that out the hard way. The moment all 7 members completed their service, something extraordinary happened. Not a slow comeback. Not a carefully managed re-entry designed to test the waters. BTS dropped back in like they'd never left, and the fans responded with a level of organized, synchronized, global energy that shocked even industry veterans who had seen it all before. The album, the tours, the streaming numbers, all of it pointed in one direction, but the question everyone was quietly asking was, would the awards follow? Because in the music industry, awards are never just about talent. They're about power. They're about relationships. They're about which acts the gatekeepers want to platform on their biggest stages. And BTS has always been inconvenient for the gatekeepers. Think about it. Fan-voted awards are the one category where the industry's preferences don't matter. You can't lobby a fan. You can't take ARMY to lunch and convince them to vote differently. The numbers are the numbers. And when BTS is in the running, the numbers have always been staggering. But here's what makes this win different from every other artist of the year they've ever taken home: the timing. Coming back from a collective military hiatus with no guarantee that the public would still be there. Winning this, right now, in this moment, was a statement. When the announcement dropped, the reaction in that room was immediate. The screaming. And then RM stepped to the microphone, and what he said rewrote the entire narrative in 3 sentences. He didn't perform gratitude. He didn't deliver a rehearsed industry speech. He acknowledged the comeback. He called out the military service. He invoked Busta Rhymes' name to drive home a point that this wasn't the industry's award to give. It never was. This was a fan-voted award. It belonged to ARMY. That one moment exposed something the industry spends enormous resources trying to keep invisible. The fact that BTS's power has never come from label deals, radio payola, or industry access. It comes from a direct, unmediated relationship between 7 artists and tens of millions of people around the world, who will show up regardless of what the machine does or doesn't do. And that terrifies people in power. Come back with a new album, sell out tours across multiple continents, and still walk away with Artist of the Year. What does that say about every act that the industry has been artificially elevating in their absence? What does that say about the streaming playlists that suddenly forgot BTS existed? What does that say about the award shows that quietly restructured categories right around the time BTS enrollment began? Jimin thanked the fans who followed them on tour, city by city. Jung Kook looked genuinely overwhelmed. And when one of them said the words, "It feels so good to be back," that wasn't a stage line. That was the sound of 7 men who had spent 2 years in military service. who had watched the industry try to quietly close the door behind them. Standing on a stage with an award in their hands that nobody could take from them. The album they came back with, the one they were still visibly overwhelmed by the reception to, didn't just perform. It overperformed against every projection, against every industry expectation, against every quietly whispered prediction that the gap would be too long, that the momentum would be gone, that the cultural window had closed. It hadn't closed. If anything, the gap made the return more explosive. But let's be clear about something. This story isn't finished. The same forces that tried to marginalize BTS during their absence are still operating. The industry doesn't forget when an act proves it doesn't need them. And when you win Artist of the Year on a fan vote after a 2-year military hiatus against acts that had full label support, full promotional budgets, and full industry access for every single one of those 730 days you've just made. A very loud statement to very powerful people. What happens next in the BTS comeback cycle will tell us a lot about how much the industry actually learned from this moment. Will award shows respect the numbers? Will radio play reflect the streaming reality? Or will the quiet suppression continue, more subtle this time, more strategically executed now that they know direct confrontation with ARMY doesn't work? The receipts are already being tracked. The data doesn't lie. And ARMY, as 13 years of history has shown, is not going. If one of the biggest acts on the planet can be systematically sidelined from mainstream coverage for 2 years and still come back to take the top prize, what does that tell you about who the music industry is actually building its structures to serve? And here's where it gets even more interesting. Because the industry's quiet campaign against BTS wasn't just about awards, it was about money. It was about control. And it was about what happens when a non-Western act refuses to play by Western rules. While BTS was in service, HYBE's stock took hits. Analysts wrote pieces questioning whether the company could survive a prolonged absence of its biggest asset. Business media ran headlines framing the hiatus as a crisis, as a warning, as evidence that the BTS machine was finally slowing down. And that's the part that never makes it into the mainstream music coverage. The organized, global, multi-language, multi-platform infrastructure that ARMY has built over 13 years isn't just a fan base, it's a parallel media machine. Real time and votes. Every single time. The industry spent 2 years trying to quietly restructure the landscape while BTS was unavailable to compete. They pushed new acts, quietly, carefully, strategically, and then BTS came back, and all of it collapsed in weeks. Now, here's what nobody is talking about yet: what this comeback means for the next generation of non-Western artists watching from the outside. Because if BTS can be sidelined, suppressed, and still come back to win, that is a blueprint. That is proof that a direct relationship with your audience is worth more than any label deal. Any radio relationship, any industry access that can be granted and revoked on someone else's timeline. That lesson is already spreading, and the people who benefit from keeping that lesson quiet know exactly how dangerous it is. The door BTS kicked open 13 years ago didn't close while they were gone. It got wider, and the industry has no idea else entirely. Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more exposes on the moves the industry doesn't want you to see, subscribe to Celebzova. We're just getting started.